Welcome.
Welcome.
We're here. We're starting. We're taking that step. Step one. This is like the hardest thing for most people to do is take step one. We talk about it, but we just never do
The
it.
initiative. The initiative. It's hard.
Like, how does one get to a point where they take that first step?
I've heard someone say, and I agree with, they say the pain of staying the same isn't as bad as the fear of starting anew. I probably butchered that, but
it makes
that's
sense.
when it makes sense. When it's like, all right, I'd rather that than what I have, or I'd rather just try. You know, sometimes that's the push.
A lot of the time, if I'm gonna get on one tangent, then we're gonna like intro ourselves. But
All right, facts.
one thing about it is just trying is all you need sometimes. Like if you just try to lose weight, you will make a change. Like so, no one's saying that you're going to drop 100 pounds in 1 week, but if you just try eating better, try working out, because you're not doing it. So if you just try to do it, like you can at least see like subtle changes. Like you can see it like gradually become better. Your situation or your life become better. So if you have a problem with spending too much, well, just try spending less. And then,
right.
So if you just try, a lot of times if you just try.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because it's like if you have a problem with doing something, that means you're doing it. Like you're doing it.
So try not doing it.
So if you don't, try not doing it. It's simple. Yeah.
Welcome. This is the Love Us podcast. I am Sema'j. That is Lee.
I'm Leon.
And that's us.
Love us.
That's all good. If you love, don't judge us, don't hate us, belittle us, cancel us. Please don't cancel us.
Nah, don't do that.
I love us.
Because we come here pure, right? We're gonna say things, we're gonna be honest about things, right? And sometimes just those two things alone get you in trouble, but we don't come with any type of judgment at all, because we've been through the worst. We've been a part of being the worst, so there's no place on earth for us to judge anyway. But we come here pure. So
in most of our takes and most things we talk about here comes from a place of wanting to be enlightened, informed, educated. We're actually coming here with more questions than answers.
Right.
So with that, we're going to do the due diligence. I messed that up. Due diligence to come at least with a stand, come with a place where we show our stake in the game, but also understand that there's room for us to get better. That's pretty much the premise of the podcast. How it began, how it got started. We met in Temple in July of 2013.
Yeah, your memory is sharp.
It was July 2013. Both came in as student athletes. Most importantly, came in as young Black men just trying to better themselves so that they can help others in the future. So understanding that it's going to be a process, and that was, for that portion of our life, that was step one.
Facts.
It's like
facts.
Like when you think like that, like that was step one.
That's crazy. I do think about that.
We were never going to be any worse than we were on that day. We were never going to be any greener than we were on that day. Like that was the bottom, that was the ground level, that was the foundation.
Yeah.
But that was also the foundation of our relationship. It was step one.
Came in with flaws.
Super flawed. Right. But even though that was the foundation, we both brought experiences and brought certain perspectives to how we attack different things or challenges that were to come and still are to come. And that's kind of the understanding and premise that we have of understanding that relationships are there for a reason. It's up to you to how you water and how you foster them, but continue taking those steps. So you already did the challenging part, taking step one. Today is step one of Love Us. We're going to grow from here. But I think it's funny we're on the topic of steps, because steps is what led to the next steps we took in our life. Like in terms of the first initial meeting. So we met running 110s at EO on 10th and Diamond. Like 10th and Diamond is such a legendary place, but I'm gonna let Lee tell this story.
Okay, so we're running 110s. I'm trying to figure out how do I don't even know what the fuck's going on, pardon my French. And I'm like, all right, well, let me just go all the way to the end. I'm gonna go all the way to the furthest you can go, all the way to the gate, because the coaches was on this end doing their thing. Let me get all the way over here and maybe let me figure it out from there. So you was all the way on the edge to my left, and we're running these things. First one, poof, I'm out the gate sprinting. Might have finished first among us, and not knowing what the fuck's going on. And then as time go, you run the second one, you run the third one, you run the fourth. Here come the fourth one, and it's like, I don't know if I could do this 15 more times now. You know what I mean? But you, the whole time, each one, it looked like you getting closer and closer, and you just flying by me. But when we get to the end, you're not breathing as hard. I can't figure out what the fuck's going on. So I'm probably rep 7, and correct me if my memory is wrong, but I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, how are you running this like this, but you're not tired? He's like, yo, I just come off the gate hard. I give you 20 max. 50, I'm coasting, and then the last whatever, I'm slowing down. And I'm thinking about that. All right, well, let me try that shit. And then, man, the rest is history. The rest is really history. But that moment was so symbolic, because it was like, shit, you gotta, I mean, we say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But shit, starting well do matter in certain runs in life. So yeah, that was the genesis of our relationship. And what's that? That's 8 years ago?
Yeah, no, but yeah, we're approaching 9.
9, yeah, coming on 9, almost a decade later, man, and we still running that race, but we know how to stay winded, you know.
I think if we circle back to what you said, I said, I told you I give you a max effort for the first 20. The next 50, I'm letting my momentum take me, and in the end, it's what it is. That's essentially how you can look at life in terms of the idea of step one.
Facts.
Step one is just building the foundation. The first 20 yards, you're building your foundation, and that's essentially what's supposed to carry you for the rest of your life. So you can think of it in a more tangible way. People spend all this money for college, 4 years for some for a bachelor's, 5 years for a master's, some 6 for an MBA, law school. That could be 8 years in total of school. If you go the medical way, it could be 12 years. That's essentially your foundation. That's your 20 yards. Right. Where that's supposed to set you up for the rest, so that you can just let momentum take you from there, let your foundation take you from there, let the information that you built up and you've invested in yourself take you from, and how you end. Let the cards fall where they may.
Let the cards fall where they may. And that's so interesting, because like, if you don't start off the way you got to start for your race, you find yourself always trying to catch up. And in certain runs in life, you can't play from behind. You know what I mean? And sports just is not one you could play from behind. You got to, finding ways to get ahead keeps you at the game. You know what I mean? And you can't play from behind in certain life. And you can't play from behind in mental health either. You know what I mean? You can't put yourself in these bad situations and then always have to climb out the ladder to get out. You know what I mean? Because at some point, that hole becomes too deep. So getting off to a good start is important in life. Yeah. I never looked at it like that until you explained it like that. That's crazy.
I think it's crazy when you think about it from the standpoint of a lot of times when you don't start off fast, you're nonchalant, you're like half in, half out, and you try to catch up, you don't make your time. Or if you do make your time, you're so winded that you can't make the next one.
Can't be consistent, yeah.
Starting out fast, one gives you the area to now recalculate where I need to be. So like think about it, if you started out fast, you're above the clock. So now you kind of slow it down. Slow it down means that that's that day where you've been working out. You have a 4 month goal of trying to lose weight. You started out great in the first 2 months. You may have had some days where maybe you got hurt, you weren't feeling well, you were sick. So now I kind of put a wrench in your plans. So you start thinking about it from the standpoint of I gave myself a great foundation, so all I have to do is get back to what I was doing, as opposed to being halfway in, halfway out. You really didn't make any progress. Now you got sick, then you got hurt, then you're really behind the ball. So now you're doing double the work of what your goal was for month 4.
Mm-hmm. So, and then when you don't get there, it's like, oh well, just not me. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Right.
So from that, I think it's like, so now that we have that information, what do we do with it? Like, how can we use that to implement into everything we do? Not just what we view as important, but what actually is. It's like, because you got sometimes in life, honestly, all the time, we put value or prioritization on what we want to. Even some stuff may be important, we just choose like, nah, I'll worry about that when that becomes more important. One being mental health, one being health, relationships. Like, prime example being, we take family members for granted. And
so, I think they'll be there forever.
Exactly. So like, she called me today. I'm not gonna pick up. I'll talk to her tomorrow. That could be your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, sister. Like, oh, they're having this event. I'll go to the next one. Like we assume that there's going to be another one.
Right. Yeah. I've been a culprit of that.
So we start looking from that standpoint, it now makes you not have the same feelings you have towards other people as well. Like, they're probably prioritizing what's important to them at that moment, however they calculate that. Because we're all our own boss. Once you leave school and like that world, you're responsible for you. You're your own calculator. You calculate the level of importance you're going to put on things.
Right. Yeah.
What does that mean? Like,
what does that mean? Why do we do that though? Even knowing what we know, knowing that you just away from a completely different situation, a completely different way of living, life completely changes like this. We know that. Why do we still do these things? You know what I mean? Why? And how we know we've had this conversation, but you know, the pandemic has been what it's been. It's been a tragedy for a lot of people. A lot of people have lost family members. A lot of people lost friends, co-workers. I mean, you name it. But one thing that we can all probably be honest about and say is that it made us look at what we weren't doing right, where we was wasting time and taking time for granted. And it's mainly been that. I mean, you either quit your job and said, I want to, stay with my family a little bit more, or you said, you fell in love with your spouse again. Whatever the case may be, you reanalyze the way you was living life, and time and energy was two of the things that we looked at and said, how am I spending these things? So, it's funny how nature works. It's funny how the universe works. Anybody that says they don't believe in a higher power, I challenge you to look at this past year, where the balance was tipping towards clubbing, looking down at the phone. It really made you look up and look in the mirror. So, it's been good for a lot if you could look at it like that.
That's another point too, in terms of the social scene, the phone, just the things that make you feel good in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Like that short-term gratification that a lot of us push for because of essentially not really being happy with our decisions. And what I mean by that is,
right,
you're not happy with like the job you have or where you're living or the certain things you're doing. So you're looking for a way to escape. Um, but some people could be vice versa. You're not happy with like your friends or the lack of, so you just lose yourself in your work, and we call you disciplined because yeah, you're getting monetary or tangible things, or you're getting this recognition. But outside of that, remove those goals that essentially don't really matter to your health or well-being, and it's empty. It's a dark hole.
Right. It's a void.
And I think about it like that's what happens when you're always destination. You're destination driven.
Yeah, I agree.
Until I get there, I can't focus on anything else. And once I get there, it's like, what's next?
Now, yeah, because there's, it's not like there's a banner you run through, like a marathon, like, so, you know what I mean? It's like these are intangible goals for the most part, but you get there and it's like, well, if you focus that hard to that, you got it. Now, how do you divvy up your next goal? Are you gonna restart and get that same fire and create something, you know what I mean? Or is it you realize like life, there is no destination to this shit, but until you get into that box, you feel what I'm saying? And it's just a journey. You learn, you grow. If we want to set destinations, let's set character destinations. You know, I want to get to a point where the people close to me can trust me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Work tunnel vision for that. Tunnel vision for the character stuff. And let the materials be a part of the journey, because we talk about this foundation. The character is the foundation. You can have the materials, but without the foundation, it'll collapse when the storm comes, right?
It's crazy. I'm gonna go right back to what you said, but shameless plug. Been reading Adrian Sullivan's book. Hold on, let me take off this.
50 lessons, baby. Damn, I don't got my copy. It's at my lady's.
I have mine, but I gotta turn this blur off. Hold on. My bad, everybody.
Do. Turn the blur off.
All right, now it's off. Now we good. All right, so listen. Adrian Sullivan dropped a phenomenal book. I've been reading it, almost done. 50 lessons to jumpstart your self-development and his footsteps to leave your footprint on earth. A great quote he had in there was, "Are you living for the person who will be in the casket, or for the people who will be attending your funeral?" So that puts a lot of things into perspective. That's very profound by Sully. Because
that's a bar.
The crazy part is for the people who will be there, or you're expecting to be there, most won't. So that kind of should change a lot. Just that one understanding.
Indeed.
Only 1/3 of the people you assume will be at your funeral will be there, unless you have like you're murdered. Something. You just live a long life and you pass away from health or just natural causes. Only 1/3 of the people you assume will be there.
I didn't know that.
So, with that said, how does that change how you want to live?
You don't want to disappoint the people that's going to be there, quote unquote. You don't want to disappoint the people that's close to you. You want to impress, you want to make the people around you proud, but you got to find a balance between, at the end of the day, nobody get in that box with me. So I got to create and sustain a life that benefits me either equally as much or more than everyone else. Right? So it's tough. You can't be selfish, but there's a certain level of selfishness that allow you to be selfless. So it's all the way.
It's crazy. I always find humor in a lot of stuff. And what does Joe Budden always say in his podcast? I came to pod today. Can we pod? So in terms of, I really do want to get in the podding bag. I think about.
Let's pod.
So the question I have is in terms of, if you were to pass away, right, what would you want like your biopic to be like? So like your initial scene of the biopic. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So for me, I would want the biopic to start at my funeral. I want to like get to like why we're here. We're here because like I'm passed away and you want to remember the life I had. But I wanted to start off in like some dope shit. I wanted to be like a group of men of all races, like all in like black suits from top to bottom, but like some expensive drip. So like Versace did some like black, some like street. Like, I want like the best designers to design all their suits, right? And on the inside of it have like this like silk, like royalty, like you just like the top of the line stuff. But I want them like the whole place to be like sad, mourning, and I want the whole group, like 40 of them, to walk up to the casket at the same time and say like, "We got it from here, boss," and just walk out. Because I think it's dope.
You done mapped this whole thing out.
Cause like, I'm thinking about it now because that's the question you asked. But I'm thinking about it like, on cuff. You know how dope that is? Because you know how so many people it's going to lead to more questions. And I want everything that follows from that to have nothing to do with what they did at the start of the movie. But just from that point forward, you're always going to remember that.
Right. That's hard.
Imagine your whole life you were a janitor and nobody knew who them guys were. They just happened. So prime example from Temple, the janitor we used to have the glasses. All of us from Temple
Sonny.
Came there. Yeah, Sonny, right. Came there and did that. But his family had no clue who these people were. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's crazy.
So we sit there thinking this man like part of the mob or mafia. Nah, he was a dope individual. They just say like, listen, your legacy lives on. Right.
Indeed. I think my biopic probably start. Find some child pictures, some kids, some baby photos or something, because that's really like that whole phase don't have anything to do. Well, it does, but it's so different from what I am now. Like very light skin, smooth, soft skin, like fragile, small, and now I've grown into, I'm scarred in different ways, and I'm a little darker than I was, full scruffy beard, and I got tattoos, I got blemishes all over the place, but that's life sometimes, and you take those things with you and you appreciate those things, but I think that's how I want my shit to start, and then let it go through forward and see if you can resonate with something on the way.
No, that's actually dope. You gotta be thinking about like childhood pictures, and one that came to mind when you brought that up was this like I was like 4 years old. I was like, it's a picture of me looking into the mirror, but I'm like looking at myself, not really smiling, but just like in awe,
like that's me.
Yeah, like that's me.
Yeah.
And thinking back,
I have those moments now.
And that was my next thing. Like I had those moments now. Like we all.
Yeah.
But it feels like you spend your entire life trying to chase that one time where you were in awe of like, wow, that's really me. Because so many times we say that it's not for positive reasons. And I mean, like metaphorically, we look in the mirror and like, damn, like I gotta change that. Like when I was that age, there was nothing I wanted to change. And I want to go back to home.
The world was the world. Everything we was the world. You know what I mean? Like everything revolved around us. But in we didn't know selfishness yet, so it was pure, obviously.
I wonder how many people are able right now, like in their adult age or adolescent years, can look in the mirror and say, I don't want to change shit. I'm in awe.
But certain things we say we don't want to change right now, because there's certain things where we're not impacting nobody right now negatively, or we not necessarily, it's not hindering us from the goals we have set. So we ain't got it. We don't have to be at the point where I don't want to change shit, but I see what you're saying. You're saying I don't want to. What do I have to change because of how other people look at me?
Yes, and I'm glad you.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
like I don't want to. I don't want to change my approach, and I mean by that, I don't want to change the way I love people, or the way I think, or the way I speak, or these different things to please others. Like if your goal is to please others, that's going to be a never-ending battle. So like, I'm content, or I'm at peace with the life I'm living. Like, we all have flaws, all have things we want to change, but I'm talking about like just from a foundation standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a good person, so if I'm a good person, why am I changing this to please one when I'm impacting others positively? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so how do you fight that? How do you not fall into that trap?
And that's where I come to you. And what I mean by that is like, it's something that everyone deals with from a young age to when you get old. Like, how do I solely focus on myself in a way that's, prime example, most people want to go to the pros, they go to college, they do different things because they want to take care of others. We can go very minute. Most Black African American men want to go to the league or get a lot of money because they want to take care of their family.
Right.
It's glorified because there are examples of people who have done so, and also they've had extra on the side. Like, they've had an abundance of wealth, an abundance of whatever you put value on in a very shallow way. Yeah, but we don't glorify the days of like loneliness, the sacrifices of friendships, relationships, mental health, the thing that they have to endure just because, quote unquote, that's what a pro does. So I have to allow you to dictate my time and what I do and say, because this comes with the role, but that falls under, I have to do this because you're at power.
Right.
Because so many times we confuse power for freedom. Like, you have the power to change your friends and family and community and neighborhood's life, but it doesn't mean you have freedom. Like, you don't have the freedom of, it's a Saturday, I just want to be free, whatever that means to you. So, but whatever that means, like, there are abundance of people watching. You have an audience at all times. So every decision you make, good or bad, is documented. And then from that standpoint, some people are able to do that and do whatever they want, and they provide themselves their own personal freedom. But if you're not really
But one would argue that you can't have. One would argue that if there's a spectrum, power and freedom aren't, they're oppositions. You can't have both. Like, if you have power, you've relinquished your freedom. How you feel about that?
This is what I'll say. Most people say, I want to be free. And what I mean by that is, like, the idea of power, that's not really a thing right now. Like, people, they want to be free, they want to be liberated, they want, you know what I'm saying? They say they want to have the idea of, to make a decision and go in. Like, we have freedom of speech, not power of speech. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But we do see people who, on the other side, are scratching and clawing for power and using their power through their speech. We see these mainly through politicians and stuff like that in the States and stuff, but I feel like you can't, I feel like it's, you want power, you can't have freedom.
I think you just brought up a great point, because the powerful individuals who are using their freedom of speech, but it's like they're selling something. Like, their
they
power
always got that audience. They gotta always sell something.
So it's like,
or they lose their power.
So that's a good point, where it's like, who are you really powerful over, though? Because, like, now, I don't want to get into politics, but there's examples of it that I can show you on both sides, how the person lost out on something. So therefore, you really weren't free. You couldn't just freely say what you said because you lost X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I can go for anyone. But for example, if you bring up, I don't want to go into politics, AB, Antonio Brown recently, what he did in terms of power, there are certain people who look at it as like what he did was either positive or they wanted to find like the actual reason why he did it because there was anything wrong with it. But you also have other people saying that doesn't fall like within the character of athletes, professional athletes. You need to hold yourself to a certain level of professionalism. Also, it's not
Hmm.
something you want to teach to upcoming athletes. Um, but on both sides of the spectrum, like there's someone who now feels liberated from what he did. There's also other people who feel like we took 1,000 steps back after what he did. So I guess it boils down to who do you put your value into, but also I still at the same point, it's like you're searching for validation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And and where you're searching for that validation is what gets you in trouble, you know. And we're not getting into politics, and I'm cool with that. But we've seen trends with him, um, where certain decisions he made show where his head was. And everybody go through their own thing, so nobody's judging. Um, we look at decisions people make on camera and we say, all right, was that right or was that wrong? We don't know what headspace people are in when they make these decisions, so we can't really do that accurately or precisely. So, you know, I try to refrain from it, but it, playing the validation of social media shit, you know, you have these wow, look at them viral moments, but when you finally do obtain that freedom later on in life, which we usually go and get the freedom when we get older, we look back on those moments and we say, damn, I don't, you know, that's where the regret comes in, and you don't want to live with that. So um, it goes back to what we were saying, power and freedom. Can you have both?
It's crazy because I think step one towards the idea of which one do I prefer? Do I prefer freedom or power?
Hmm.
I want to figure out what that is. I want to figure out what is step one uh, of this conversation. 'Cause I think that it's something that you can't only discuss in one sitting. But
No, right.
how can I get back to the point where I look in the mirror, it's just like I feel how I felt when I was 4 years old? What steps do I need to take? What's the first step to getting to a point where I'm like, yo, damn, like that's me. And metaphorically, I don't need to look in a mirror and say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to look at my life and say uh, like I don't even know how I did that.
Accept your flaws, man. That's how I think. I think if you can really look at yourself for, I mean, we can always, you know, put magnifying glass on what we do well or the sexy parts of us, but and kind of sweep the flaws under the rug. But I think really hanging the flaws up on the clothing line and saying this is what I am, and getting to the root of like why it's like that. What happened in my childhood that made me look at things like this or react to certain things like that and be like, all right, well that's me. If you see these things negatively impact people, that's when you can improve and you can find new habits to build. But for the most part, the things you can't change, accept them. And it's like that's what we did when we was kids. Like we didn't know what wasn't cool. We didn't know what was cool. We just knew, you know, that's mommy, that's daddy. Some of us didn't know that, but we was like, that's our guardian, that's who we love, and this is what I have. And happiness kind of, you know, we didn't overvalue or undervalue things, and it kind of made it easy to live. And as we get older, we say, all right, well, that's what we got to be, or that's what we don't want to be, and that's what we can't sound like, that's what we should sound. And it's like all of that comparing and all of that confusion, man, it just steals, it robs you of happiness. So, you know.
So many things came to my mind as you said that, because like that all came from our environment and the idea of
Hmm.
protecting yourself.
Yeah.
That's essentially what like power is, or
Hmm.
power is the idea to protect yourself and how you can navigate, move, maneuver for you and your family. And freedom
Hmm.
is this idea that I can do it my way. So,
Yeah.
the, like, if somebody can have the power to hire someone and have them what's the way to put it? So someone may have the power, meaning the resources, to go out and rent the Wells Fargo Center for a private, social, or corporate matter.
Mm-hmm.
But they may not have the freedom to do so because they also have to answer to the person who owns that. Like we don't
Right.
we don't truly have like a king or dictatorship in our society. You know what I'm saying? So like everybody answers to someone. So like I don't know. I feel like it can go so many ways, but that idea of like
Yeah.
power and freedom is just you essentially have both in certain ways, but not
Is
everywhere.
it there is duality. I should have, I didn't think of that, but I think that's how the hierarchy is set up, right? We that's how Western culture is. We set we prioritize value. So you always climb the right. Now it's the human instinct in us to want to do more and to explore and the courageousness. That's what's made us grow as a species. But culturally in society, we've tuned ourselves to say, all right, well, how do we become more important than the next person? And that's that hierarchical, whatever the word is. That's that mindset we have from society is, we want to find a way to be more important than the next person, be more valuable than the next person. But our the way we distinguish value is what causes a lot of conflict. And I think that's what the issue we're trying to avoid. It's not like we don't want things to be valuable, and we don't have to establish some form of hierarchy, but it's the way in which we do it. It's a little it could be immoral at times. I think we all can agree on that in certain areas.
No, definitely. I think it's something we're going to continue to talk about. I'm thinking about in terms of the viewers. I challenge you. I challenge you to find a way to be just like 4-year-old Maj, to look in the mirror, whether physically or metaphorically, and just try. Just try to look at yourself in awe, with a smile and amaze, and just marvel over the work you've done, but also be kind to yourself. Understand that, like, be kind to yourself now, your future self. I understand the work you put in just to be in a place to even reflect on everything you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what your strengths are first, so you can make those superpowers. But also figure out areas of opportunity where you can just try. So you're having a hard time losing weight, then try to. Let's say if you eat too much, try eating less. If you know you don't work out, try to work out. If you know you have a hard time like reaching out to family and friends and just checking in, just try to reach out to them and see where that gets you at their week.
And also try to forgive yourself for the times where you didn't do it right, because that sometimes can cause us to be reluctant to take that step. We be like, well, I used to be an asshole, so I'm not worthy of being a good person, so let me just stay in you know what I mean? And it's crazy how that works. But try to forgive yourself. Like, try to look back and say, I did this wrong. I do deserve to do it right. I do deserve to be seen as trustworthy when I used to be a thief or I used to be a liar. So try and forgive yourself, and try and understand that you'll never be perfect, but always try to be better. You know what I mean?
You have so many other great points, but that's a whole different topic. One thing, personal tie-in would be that I'm very hard on myself, where it's hard for me to stay in the moment. I'm gonna try to be in the moment. I'm gonna try to be nicer to myself, but so we're gonna take our own information as well. But the idea of that because you weren't where you always will be is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You have ownership. Like, you may not always have freedom, or you may not always have power, but you have ownership of your decisions. You have ownership of how you choose
react.
to react. Exactly.
Yep.
You have ownership of how you move and treat others. So take accountability in the things that you have ownership in, and that's where your power, that's where your true power and freedom lies. And that's essentially how I answer your question. I may not have the power of freedom that society may say is like what is like the top powerful person or the most prestige, or I may not even have
Hmm.
certain things that I greed for or lust for, but I have ownership on what I do next. I have ownership on how I attack that approach to obtain what it is I want, or to say I have a dream for something and not put the work in. That's just crazy.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's not taking ownership of opportunity. That's not taking ownership of like your life. So that's what I encourage everyone to do. Try to take ownership of everything you do.
Take that first step. Got to start somewhere.
But listen, what do we know? But
What do I know?
but once again, I'm Maj, aka Oscar Bully, aka you know the rest.
Leon Johnson, aka Alexa. Jet on that.
We out.
Love me for me.
Hey, yo,
Need
Ren,
you to
turn
love me
that
for
up.
me. Love me for me. She love my smile, she love my lips, she love my flat feet. She is the lotion to my body when I'm ashy. She know my flaws and know my sins and never bash me. She is the water to my voice when it get raspy. Even when I'm mad, she always make me laugh. Don't judge me for my past. I think we gonna last. Cause she love me for me. She love me for me. She let me be me. And she love me for free. Cause she love me. She let me do what I wanna do when I want to. She said as long as you come home ain't got no curfew. She got the password to my phone but never go through it. She said if I mess up what we got it's gon' hurt you. But when I come home she make me feel like a damn king. Her smile and touch is the reason that I finally know peace. Ain't got no questions about her love because she shows me. If I ever lose her I know it's gon' fold me. Even when I'm mad, she always make me laugh. Don't judge me for my past. I think we gonna last. Cause she love me for me. She love me for me. She let me be me. And she love me for free. Cause she love me for me. She love my smile, she love my lips, she love my flat feet. She is the lotion to my body when I'm ashy. She know my flaws and know my sins and never bash me. She is the water to my voice when it get raspy. Even when I'm mad, she always make me laugh. Don't judge me for my past. I think we gonna last. Cause she love me for me. She love me for me. She let me be me. And she love me for free.